And what more fitting way to end this video course with tutorials on the ending of notes and the realism thereof, or therein. So we've looked at how notes start and the ways that we can adjust them to speak faster or slower, or how to create or improve a sense of legato by adjusting the attack characteristics. And now we turn our attention to the way notes end, which is an important thing to focus on, because if the way your notes and phrases end don't sound quite right, that can detract from the realism of your mockup just as much as having attack characteristics that aren't quite right. So let's get started with a little release time realism test. Here are 3 sounds: timpani, chimes, and vibes. Each one is going to sound 2 notes, which I played staccato on my keyboard as though I went up to each instrument and struck them with a mallet. All of them are going to ring out after I play them, but only one of them is going to ring out realistically. And which one will that be? The timps, the chimes, or the vibes? If you answered the timpani, you'd be correct. If you strike a timpani, it's going to ring out unless you deliberately damp the head with your hand. If you strike chimes, they're actually not going to ring out like you heard them do, because a real set of chimes has a damper pedal on it, and it's always engaged, unless, of course, you step on the pedal to let the notes ring out, or you unbolt the thing. The actual sound of the chimes sitting in their rack would be more like you heard in the earlier tutorial on simulating damping with CC11 in East-West sounds. Something more like this. We have the same situation with the vibes. A real set of vibes has a damper pedal on it too, and if you struck the bars of a vibraphone without holding its sustain pedal, the sound would dampen quite quickly. The reason that the sampled timps, chimes, and vibes ring out as long as they do is because all 3 sounds have been programmed to have a very long release time on their envelope generators. Longer release time settings allow more of the recording to play out and continue to be heard after you release a key. So the notes that I played for the little test were all very short notes, yet the notes rang out for a very long time. So that's an accurate reflection of what you'd expect if you struck a timpani with a short mallet hit, but not the chimes and the vibes unless you held down their damper pedals. So to make the vibes and chime sounds play in a way that's more natural to the way the actual instruments operate, I've shortened the release times so that when I play these sounds staccato, they only ring out as much as I'd expect to hear from the real instruments when their damper pedal is not being operated. And that was a simple matter of turning down the release time on the instruments until they sounded right to my ear. But when I hold down the damper pedal, in this case the sustain pedal connected to my controller, the sound will indeed take on the long release characteristics that you'd expect them to have. And letting go of the sustain pedal dampens these sounds just like the real thing. Voila! Now, all of that wasn't just to point out that these particular mallet instruments are programmed in a way that's kind of counterintuitive to the way they actually operate, or even just to explain what release time is. More importantly, for the purpose of understanding the importance of release time settings, you should know that the release time settings as programmed for every sampled instrument by every sample library developer are almost always wrong, except when they're not. But when are they not? Or to put it another way, when are they correct? Well, I'll talk about that in the next tutorial.